Hi, I'm a tall ghost, and I'm joined here by a small ghost, and this is episode 2 of
Take time.
And we're going to be talking about a movie calendar that we followed all throughout October of 2021
Mostly.
and ranking those movies. So, I don't mean to interrupt this beautiful hodgepodge of disgusting garbage on my screen, but we're going to... There we go. We're going to get right into it, because there's like 33 movies to discuss, and the last video was 2 hours long.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the categories?
Yeah. So the movie calendar, which I will probably put in post-production, was broken into 7 categories for each day. There was Monster Monday, Thriller Tuesday, Wild Card Wednesday, where you got to pick any movie off of the full list of movies there was a handful of extra movies if you wanted to pick one, or you could just watch one that you wanted anyways. It's Wednesday. Thrasher Thursdays, Freaky Fridays, Sanguine Saturdays, and Black Sabbath for Sunday. So each category is broken down respectively for each day. There is a movie from each category for each day, so on and so forth. Again, I'll put the calendar in post-production.
I think there's probably a lot of movies that are coming to mind that you think of when you think of like Halloween movies that aren't here. Because we did a calendar, not last year, but the year before.
Yep.
Where we put a lot of those in there, so we wanted to get some new ones that we hadn't seen before, and some we had.
But these aren't going to be like the classic horror movies for October, because I wanted to put movies on here that we hadn't seen, so we could enjoy watching them for the first time, but also movies that likely other people haven't seen either. So if anyone wanted to follow along with us, I think my sister followed along. I don't know if anyone else did, but that's perfectly fine. It was more for us than anyone else, I guess.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to follow along, there was a chance they would see movies they hadn't seen before. That being said, there was content warning for a lot of these movies, because there's, for a good portion of them, especially towards the end of the calendar, some stuff that's kind of unsavory. But that being said, do you want to just jump right into it? Is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. So the first movie, we're going alphabetically. So these aren't going by date, but the first movie we have on here is 30 Days a Night, which was a vampire movie, so it fell under Sanguine Saturday.
I thought this one was just okay. I liked the concept a lot.
Yeah.
The rundown of it is that there's this town in Alaska, and most people, it's night for like 30 days out of the year in the winter, so a lot of people leave the town because they don't want to deal with that, and I don't blame them. But it's a really good place for vampires to hang out, isn't it?
Yeah, especially since it's a real town in Alaska, so who knows, there could be actual vampires in Barrow, Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the northernmost point of the U.S., and for that reason, I'm going to give it a low rating. This movie was, it had a weird, a weird order to the plot. I would have preferred that stuff that happened towards the middle of the movie actually been like the climax. There was a scene that felt pretty climatic, and then it ended up just being like a random action thing in the middle of the movie.
I was like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
And it kept going. I was like, oh.
Some of the character motivations are weird. There's one guy in it who just seems to be... he's more motivated by justice at parts because of his cop status, and other parts he's more motivated by his ex-girlfriend, who he's trying to save because she's trapped in Barrow, Alaska. She attempted to flee in the beginning, but she's stuck.
Step bro.
I don't know. I think it's kind of low for me. I'd say maybe like C or D.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, so we're gonna throw it into...
I didn't love it.
We'll throw it into The Conjuring. So that's D. Next up is Beetlejuice. I mean, this is just like an S tier movie.
Yeah, we did this one for Wild Card.
Yeah, so we picked this movie, so you'll probably see a lot of movies that we picked end up being kind of high up. Not always, but I'd say half the time.
Beetlejuice is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, though.
Yeah, I love Michael Keaton.
I used to watch this movie all the time, and me and my sister would like shadow cast the scene when they're doing the banana boat song.
Yeah.
It's like in front of our TV together. I just love this movie. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, I think it's a good S tier. It's right up there with Ginger Snaps.
It's spooky. it's just fun. It's funny. I love it. I don't know what else to say.
Speaking of movies that are funny, this next one is not. This was a Nickelodeon movie called Monster Trucks. Now, one of the nights, it was the first Friday, so it was supposed to be a Freaky Friday. And Freaky Friday was kind of like movies about like crowd mania. So you'd have like, if we had it on this list, I'd put like The Mist there, although The Mist could be a monster movie too. But it was more about like people being manic. And so we were going to watch Wicker Man. We'd already seen it before, but we were going to watch it, and then we found another movie that's going to come up later in the list, and we ended up watching the other movie and Monster Trucks instead. And so Monster Trucks is a Nickelodeon movie that has what's his name, Rob Lowe.
Yep, Rob Lowe's in it.
Rob Lowe's in it. There's a couple other people who are actual actors in it, but the main person I was fixated on throughout the duration of this movie, because it's not that good. It's just a kids movie. It's not even a Halloween movie, really.
No, we got this in a gift of like 50 random DVDs, and we just saw the cover and thought it was like so funny, and then we watched it, and it was just kind of boring. Honestly, I was bored.
Yeah, but the reason why I have Detective Bill Tench here is because his actor is in the movie, and every time I saw him on screen, I was immediately drawn to him and was making stupid jokes about how he's Detective Bill Tench from the FBI in Quantico's BSU unit. And for that reason, it's an E.
They managed to make a movie about monster trucks with an actual monster in it. Like boring and uninteresting, which is insane.
I'm going to give it a D because Detective Bill Tench is in it. Next up is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now, you probably watched this movie more than I did.
Yes. This movie is great. It is a goth dream. There's vampires, there's werewolves, there's Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder. Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder in it. The movie is just beautiful. The costumes are all amazing. The setting is amazing. I love this movie. I would watch it again.
I thought it was a bit too horny.
It's very horny, and sometimes in like a bad way.
Yeah. And Keanu Reeves plays Keanu Reeves. I was expecting him to be closer to his like Constantine level Keanu Reeves, where he's just like the cool guy smoking a cigarette, but he just ended up being like very middle of the road for me. I'm never really entertained by a Keanu Reeves performance. I don't get why people are. Maybe they just like are in love with John Wick action movies.
Yeah, he was probably like the weakest part, but Gary Oldman as Dracula.
Gary Oldman was phenomenal.
He was great, and the costume that he wears in the beginning is like this red. It looks like muscles or something.
Yeah. It's
like so cool. It's like one of my favorite movie costumes ever.
Yeah, it was an extremely beautiful movie. It was pretty horny. I'd give it like an A.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this one.
Yeah. I want to watch it again. We had an unfortunate occurrence happen in our apartment complex the night that it was playing, so I was extremely distracted by that. I'm not going to disclose any more information on it, but...
Was that day?
It was that night, yeah. I was also distracted because I got KK Slider in my Animal Crossing New Leaf Town that night, so I was trying to get him to give me songs.
Gotcha. Next
up is Cash.
This is a Wild Card Wednesday one.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So this pick for the movie, it's by Michael Haneke, who did another one of the movies on this list as well. It's a French language movie. I don't remember when it came out. But this one mostly is about this couple who starts receiving these tapes to their door that are kind of just odd and threatening, vaguely threatening. So it's about the man trying to like figure out what's going on, and it reveals some stuff about his personal life, and that's pretty much all I want to say without giving the rest of it away. But
I liked it. I thought it was paced fairly well. I was intrigued most of the time, but my biggest complaint was like none of the characters in this movie were like relatable or likable in any sort of way. Like I kind of just disliked every character in this movie, not in the way they were written, just like who they were. I disliked them.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, without giving too much more away, I think I would probably put this around a B or even an A.
Yeah.
You thinking?
I think it was like a lot of build up and like the payoff was just, I don't know.
I don't think. Yeah, the payoff wasn't worth it. It leaves you with a lot more questions, which is fine. Like, movies are allowed to do that, and it's a good thing sometimes, but.
I don't think it did like a bad job of explaining it. Like I understood what was going on, but
Yeah. I can see this being one of those movies that gets like 20 people who are like, the cash ending explained video.
mm-hmm.
I'll give it like a B. I think it's an unfriended movie. Next up is another Wild Card Wednesday movie. I believe this is another one I picked.
I wanted to watch this one because it does take place around Halloween in October, so I like to watch it around this time of year. Every year when it comes out.
But that movie is Donnie Darko.
Yes.
And,
I do want to take a second to mention the first time one of my friends showed me this movie. He came over with the DVD and he was like, "Guys, I want to warn you. This movie has some iconic music in it." I didn't know what to say to him. I just, okay, noted. It's like one of my favorite movies though. It was just all around.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's phenomenal.
How would you describe the plot of this movie?
To
people that may have not seen it.
Kid discovers that he has time traveling abilities and he's able to see into the future, but he's able to change the outcome of the future, but at a very high cost.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what the 2-sentence synopsis would be on like Hulu or something.
A jet engine falls through his house, and some strange things starts happening to him, and he starts doing things around his town, getting vengeance on people, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's not the right word, vengeance. He doesn't know.
Taking justice into his own hands.
He starts discovering a lot of the things about the stuff that's going on in his town and takes action, and it's really interesting. He starts seeing this man in a bunny suit. It's really great. This also came out in like 2001 and it takes place in 1988. And this is one of the movies that like takes place in the past that doesn't, especially in the 80s, it doesn't really like dial up the 80s to like 100. Like you probably would watch this and wouldn't even think about it. They're just like in regular clothes, and the music that they play isn't like chart-topping 80s hits, which I really like.
Yeah.
This is also a movie that has like a very dedicated fan base of people who like are breaking down like the metaphysics of how this movie operates, because there's some quite a twist in it.
I don't think
which
it
is
needs
like
that deep of a breakdown, though.
I don't think so. I mean, I think I got the gist of the movie or the point of the movie without doing all of that.
Yeah.
Personally, but it's fun.
It is fun, and I love the outfits throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
Jake Gyllenhaal is amazing.
yeah.
And Jenna Malone, and this was actually Seth Rogen's first movie. He doesn't have a major role, but he does have a cameo in it.
He has the line, "I like your boobs," which is pretty par for the course. Seth
apt.
Rogen. Yeah.
Because before this, the only thing he was in was Freaks and Geeks.
But if I weren't to give this movie an S tier, I feel like my devotion to Sparkle Motion would be put into question.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm going to give it an S.
This is definitely an S tier movie. Watch this if you haven't.
The next one is Eyes of Laura Mars. This is Irving Kirchner. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but he did a couple of the Star Wars prequels. I think he did 1 and 2. But it's also a John Carpenter story, which John Carpenter's written like half a dozen. No, he's written more. These are like a couple dozen stories. One of which would be our C tier ranking, which is Vampires, which has Laura Palmer in it. But Eyes of Laura Mars follows a fashion photographer who is going through a transitionary scene in media where everyone's questioning whether or not sexual gratification and overly sexual tones are appropriate. A lot of people are questioning whether or not it's even art.
Yeah, because the things she photographs is like women, and it's kind of like boudoir photography, but there's like a dead man in the photo, murder
Yeah.
You're like, this isn't art.
Which goes into her, I guess, power, you could call it. She has an ability where she can, through the lens of her camera, see future crime scenes, which plays into her own kind of disarray towards the end of the movie. But I thought it was a pretty good movie. I was actually going into it expecting it to be like...
She starts having visions from the point of view of
the killer.
She has visions from the point of view of a serial killer, and so then she's trying to balance her career, but also she's having these like psychic visions, and she's worried that someone's coming after her. So then the tension from the movie is trying to figure out like who it is, who it could be, what's gonna happen next, like who are they gonna kill next,
and why are they targeting her cast?
Right.
Yeah. So okay. I don't want to give too much more away from the movie because it was a good movie, and I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. As I kind of found out from a lot of the Thrasher movies I'd seen this month, they were pretty bland. I mean, it was very obvious that their whole like appeal was just that it was gore and violence.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's fine. Like, it's what I was expecting, but this movie kind of like did more than that for me. Like, I wouldn't say it undersold because I didn't read too much into it. I didn't want to know too much about it before going into it. But it did, like, provide more than I was expecting. I liked it.
I liked it. There were some really cool shots in here, too, especially when she was, like, doing her photography shoots. Like, she's, like, out in the city doing the shoot, and there's, like, a car on fire behind her, and then there's, like, these women in these, like, this, like, lingerie and short skirts, and they're, like, choking each other and ripping each other's hair. She's just like snapping pictures of it. Yeah. It's awesome.
I also want to point out that originally it was supposed to be Barbra Streisand who's casted to play Laura Mars, because I think she was dating or in a relationship with someone. I don't know if it was Irvin or
someone
not,
related.
But someone related someone who bought the playwright or the rights to the movie. And they were like, yeah, Barbara, you should play the main character. And she turned it down because she said it was like too inappropriate for her. So I would love, in an alternate reality, to watch the version of Laura Mars where it's Barbra Streisand. But
dude, I think Faye Dunaway looks so much like Sigourney Weaver in this movie. Yeah.
It's distracting at times because now I'm also wondering what the movie would look like if it was Sigourney.
It would have looked the same.
She wouldn't have called the police. She would have called the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But I'd give it like a B or C.
Yeah. I liked it.
Alrighty. Yeah, you can talk about First Reformed if you like.
This movie is very sad.
Yeah, I didn't like it. No, it is. It is really sad.
This movie is very, very sad. It's about this pastor. I forgot his name in the movie.
Wow. Ethan Hawke. That's his name.
Okay, Ethan Hawke is a pastor at this like old church.
The First Reformed.
Yep, the First Reformed. People call it like a gift shop church. You know, people just go there because it's an old building mostly. And he's been called to help this individual who's having some trouble with depression. And then he finds out what's making this man depressed, which is about
global warming
and the effects of it has, and it kind of takes him over too and starts making him depressed. Now he's struggling with this, and he's also struggling with his own health. And there's some pretty nasty scenes in here regarding his health.
Yeah.
Which are honestly just like really tragic.
He has a drinking problem, and it's also likely that he has cancer.
He's lonely. Yeah. And there's people in his life who are trying to connect with him, and he's just rejecting it because he doesn't think he deserves it, I guess.
Yeah, he's a martyr.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, is that it's interesting watching the relationship between him and people of power, because initially he seems pretty, like middle of the road with how he feels about people of power, but towards the end of the movie you can see him, like, rejecting people of power within the church, people of power within, like, industries that are polluting, people of power within his own relationships with, like, the outside world. Just like he's rejecting everyone that has power, and you can kind of see him like transforming himself into the person who he's helping in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is interesting too, because in his attempts to help, it's possible that he's just lying to the guy the entire time.
Yeah, I think he was just kind of drifting through life for a while, and then he finally found this cause that he felt passionate about, and maybe because he failed maybe to help the first person, he felt like he needed to avenge him or something.
Yeah.
And I think also, I'm sorry, I might be giving away a little bit too much here. I think he did lie to him in the beginning to make him feel better.
I'm pretty sure he did.
The person who he wanted to help, because he starts telling this anecdote about his son who he lost in the war or was injured in the war, like, or in the army. I don't know, the war, but and then he kind of like tugs his ear.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably just lying.
But without giving too much more away about it, I think Ethan Hawke did a phenomenal performance. I love that it was shot in that 4:3 aspect ratio. It's a really pretty movie.
It is. This is a great movie. It's
Very sad.
It's devastating. I feel awful after watching it.
Yeah, that happens with a couple of other movies in this chart, I feel like, too.
Mm-hmm.
But where would you put it?
So don't watch this if you want to, like, watch a
happy.
scary movie. Watch it if you want to watch a good, like, drama with Ethan Hawke. Also,
it's an A24 movie.
I also really like the ending of this movie. I don't want to say too much about it, but
Yeah.
I really like the way this movie ended. It was interesting. I would give this an A.
Okay. I can get down with that. Next up, I don't think you ended up watching it, but this is the 1932 movie Freaks. This isn't a silent film, but it's a really well done movie about circus sideshow people. I don't really know what else you'd call them. I feel like either sideshow or freaks is both derogatory in sound.
That's what it is, though. This was filmed in the 30s. I didn't watch this, so I can't say anything about this, really. But
I thought it was really well done.
Can you tell me, was this more of a fiction, or was it more like a documentary?
No, it's a fiction. It follows two little people in the movie who it's a husband and wife, and the husband starts falling in love with this trapeze artist who's arguably the only person who works the circus show who isn't a freak. And everyone that is a freak sees her as just a normal person who is like taking the attention away from them. I mean, some of the freaks don't because they're just like happy to be doing something. But most of the freaks who know the better are aware that she's just there to steal the light, essentially. And she starts getting this little man to like fall in love with her, but she's essentially taking advantage of him to get money. And it starts putting a tear on his actual marriage, and it being seen from the other freaks in the show, it makes them very angry at her. So the movie, I don't want to give anything away, but I thought it was really well done. It was 1932, and it was phenomenal. It's only like 60 minutes, too, so it's a real quick watch.
I know, I wanted to watch this, too. I don't know why or what reason I couldn't, but
I was so happy at the end of watching it. In fact, I think I watched like 3 movies that day because I just wasn't feeling well. And out of the 3 movies that we watched, I watched Freaks, Come and See, and May that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Freaks was my favorite, personally. But Come and See was phenomenal for its own reasons, and so was May. I didn't put Come and See on this list either, but
I love carnivals. They fascinate me, so I'm excited to watch this when I do get a chance to.
yeah, we could watch it after this, honestly. I'd be happy to watch it again. But I'm going to give it an A. I think it was phenomenal. Like I said, I'd love to watch it after this, honestly.
I'm always a little reluctant, too, to watch like really old movies because they tend to be paced pretty slowly or be kind of boring. Or
Yeah, we'll see that a little bit later here, too.
You know, because I've been spoiled by new movies and all that.
Yeah, everything's so fast-paced, Michael Bay nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is another Michael Haneke movie. This is Funny Games. Now, I have the movie poster for the 1997 version, but we watched the 2007 shot-for-shot remake by Michael Haneke, but in English. And so we're going to be...
When we say shot by shot, we mean quite literally.
Every single shot was the exact same, and I'm convinced.
There's no scenes that are deleted or added. or lines removed.
In fact, I'm pretty sure that the lines were written exactly as they were translated through dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
I'm convinced that there might only be like 3 moments of discrepancy between the dialogue from English and German.
Just like slight idiomatic changes.
Yeah, even the casting was great. I mean, I loved watching Tim Roth and Naomi Watts do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
The kid in the 2007 remake looked so similar to the kid from the 97 version. I mean, like, Peter and Paul looked a little bit different, which we talked about when we were watching it, but...
They did. They looked a lot like each other.
This movie is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
like...
let's say what it's about.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Movie's about this family, this couple and their one son who go to their like lake house, their summer house for a vacation, and they get there and then they like say hi to one of their neighbors, and the neighbors are kind of acting weird. They're like, oh, that's weird. And then one of them comes around and asks for some eggs, and
Not one of the neighbors, but...
Oh, sorry. There's these 2 guys
With the neighbors.
with the neighbors. One of them comes over to say hi and to ask for some eggs to borrow. And from there, it gets bad and it soon becomes a hostage type situation.
Yeah. And so they're forced to play a game with these 2 guys. There's Peter and Paul. And
Peter keeps calling...
Paul keeps calling Peter Tom.
Peter and Tom interchangeably. Sometimes even like right after another. He's like, Peter...
This is Peter. Like, you should be nice to him. He'll be nice to you.
Oh, Tom, can you go get something?
Yeah.
Also calls him Tubby, which makes him very upset.
He's not even
No.
But yeah, it was funny. I mean...
This is definitely a critique of like violence in movies. It's extremely violent. This is probably one of the most violent movies I've seen. And also one of the most like anxiety-inducing, like frustrating movies I've seen. Like, if you ever seen Mother, that sense of like anger you feel towards the guests like coming in her house is how I felt.
Yeah.
At these 2 guys, because they're so. The 2 guys who are holding the family hostage are so smug.
Yeah.
It's so maddening.
And it's great.
But this movie is great.
You can watch like Peter and Paul do their thing, and you can see that they're running the game, but as an audience member, you still feel like you might have some power over it, right? Because like at any time you can stop the movie and stop watching, but Peter and Paul know for the most part you're not going to do that, so they're running the game, and they're running the game with Naomi Watts and Tim Roth as well. So it's almost like you're in the room with them and you're playing the game with them. And then many times they actually break the 4th wall and they will talk to you like you're a member of the game. Like, what do you want to do? I thought that was really cool. I mean, I usually hate that in movies, honestly. Like, I didn't like that in Deadpool. I don't like when movies break the 4th wall in an annoying way, but...
In this one, it made sense.
It made perfect sense. And the other thing that's really, like, great about this movie that adds to the whole, like, thriller sensation of it is, like, you can't negotiate with these people. Like, usually in movies that are, like, horror-related, you have, like, some linchpin, some way you can negotiate to get your way out. You can't negotiate with these people. They're just pointing out the senseless violence there is in media, and it's like, you can't negotiate with violence. It's violence, and it will only cease when violence has been dealt. I think it's great. I would honestly put it S, but what are you thinking?
S or A.
Let's drop it at an A for now. No, I'll put an S, and if anything comes up by it, we'll drop it back down.
I don't know if I'd recommend this to very many people.
No, it's very anxiety-inducing. You're likely going to have a bad time if you get anxiety attacks from watching, like, extremely thriller-heavy movies.
Yeah.
We didn't watch this next one this year. We actually watched it the first year, though. Yeah. I like it. Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, yes. This is Goodnight Mommy. I can't remember the director. It's the same director who did The Lodge.
Which is also on this list.
It doesn't really matter right now. But this one is about these two boys, and their mother has this like facial surgery, cosmetic surgery. She comes home from the hospital and her face is all bandaged up and they can't see her face anymore. You know, it's like her whole face is covered. And so they start getting like suspicious of her and they think maybe that's not actually their mother and like someone else has returned in her place. So they start like acting strangely and trying to poke and prod her and see if it's actually her or if it's an imposter.
Boys will be boys.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a twist at the end that I'm not going to give away, because it could be a couple things, but
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be able to guess it right away.
No. And having gone in this movie with like no expectations or no idea of what's going to happen, because you were really good about that for showing me movies, I think it's best to leave most things unsaid with this movie. But I do...
This is German or Austrian.
Yeah, so you have to read subtitles. So if you can't read, maybe don't watch this movie. Unless if you want to guess what they're saying, and it's entirely up to you. But I thought it was great. I think some of the gore and like body horror in this movie is awesome. I know you're not a fan of that personally, but...
That was definitely my least favorite part of this movie. But this is like one of my favorite horror movies in general. I think it's very scary. It scared me a lot the first time.
It's very tense.
It is very tense. But other than that, like the cinematography, the photography is really nice in this movie. It all looks very clean and it's all framed very well. The color palette is really nice. And these two boys are just so charming. They have pet cockroaches. Yeah, I love this one. I recommend this one quite often.
Where are you putting it?
I'm putting in this an S.
Okay. Now, this next one is the 1922 silent movie. I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's Häxan, or Witch in Swedish. It's the 1922 movie about the occult, and it's really well done. The only complaint I really have with it is, like you pointed out earlier, that older movies don't pace as well as newer movies do. And also the music choice used for it. And they explained the music choice they used in the movie at the end, in the end title cards. But it was really awkward at times, because it's just like... It didn't
quite fit the tone.
It's very joyful, like, almost circusy music.
Like whenever there's like a parody scene in the 20s and they do like like cute little like organ music, you know, it's kind of just like that.
It was very joyful orchestra music, and
it didn't always match the tone that was going on, but this is kind of like a half fiction, half documentary kind of thing
about how in the Middle Ages how witches were treated. And I thought it was really great. I also liked how they kind of tied it around to modern day, quote unquote, like the 1920s, how they would take care of people who were suspected of being witchy. Mostly they would just call you hysteric, and then they would medicate you, which isn't what you should do anyways, and we know that now 100 years later.
Right.
But it's really entertaining.
It was. I was pretty
The
engaged
costumes
the
were great.
I was very impressed with the way that they were filmed, the way that this was filmed, and the variation of the like camera shots for something that was made in 1920.
Yeah.
It was good. So it was like spliced with these like fictionalized, or not fictionalized, but like reenactments of these events, and then cards in between kind of explaining what's going on.
Yeah.
And how it relates to history. So that was like kind of educational, and there's some things in here like I didn't know about. It was good. They broke it up into 4 different parts.
7.
And 7? Oh, I thought it was 4. Okay, there's 7 different parts. But in the end, this is kind of all about a message about, you know, these people weren't witches. They were probably just mentally ill or had some sort of illness. And we kind of just use that as a way to write people off and call them witches and lock them away or kill them or torture them. So they're just misunderstood. I wasn't expecting such a charitable view of people, of like ugly old women.
Yeah.
People with mental illnesses, from a film that came out in the 1920s. So I was very surprised. But this is like very like spooky and gothic and fun, but it was also like, it had a really great message.
Yeah. I do want to take it and relayer the audio with Sun.
Yeah. Like some slow, like droning sludge metal.
Yeah, because I think that would fit really well. And then I'll just upload it and get copyright striked off the planet by YouTube. But I liked it. I think it's like a B or an A.
I would definitely recommend this.
I would have to recommend it with like an asterisk, so as to say, like, if you don't enjoy like slower paced reading type movies, you're definitely going to hate this. Because I can think of a good handful of people that I wouldn't be able to recommend this movie to because they would just be like, it's so boring.
I don't know. I was engaged the whole time, even though there wasn't any like dialogue.
Yeah.
There was some cool imagery, and every time the little devil came up.
Oh my god,
Cracked me
yeah,
up.
the little devil. There's like so many different scenes where the devil's in there, and he's always got his tongue sticking out. And at some point, my brain just snapped while we were watching it, and the devil's scenes made me just like think the noise he's making right now is like blah 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 blah. And it's just, I don't know. It was the fucking greatest. You can talk about Hell House if you like.
Yeah, I picked this one as a
Wild card.
Wildcard Wednesday. I'd heard some recommendation. I heard a recommendation from my friend and like some other places, and so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. It was a found footage film, and I love found footage films, so I wanted to give it a try. It's about these people who they go around, and their business is like starting haunted houses around different towns,
Love it.
which good premise. So they find this like old haunted building. It's been like abandoned for 30 years, and they decided to put their haunted house in there, which seems like a great idea.
I thought that the way the movie felt in the first half was different from the way it felt for the majority of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every scene that involved like the interview process, I kind of felt myself rolling my eyes.
Right, so it's like found footage of these people like vlogging their experience making the haunt, and then it's interspliced with like an interview of the person like after the fact, which is fine.
It's a fine idea. I don't know if it was executed as well as it could have been.
But like as these people are making the haunt, some actually haunted things are happening that isn't just like bad wiring, like they see things moving around, which is cool idea. Again, like haunted house actually being haunted, I like it. They took it like way over the top with the paranormal stuff, like full body clown suit moving around.
Yeah.
I don't know, like tables being set, like things moving and manifesting constantly all the time, people behind them. It was like so much, which, you know what, I love it, but at the same time they also took this movie very seriously. Like we were supposed to actually like be scared. Like there was no comedy about this wasn't funny, this was very scary, which
is not how some of the movie felt too, because there were
No.
scenes where it was very obviously meant to be funny.
if this had been like a campy comedy movie I would have loved it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. They wanted this to be like a scary movie, and it was totally confusing. I didn't get it.
There were scenes of comedy that were supposed to be taken seriously, sandwiched between scenes of seriousness that were trying to be funny, and it was kind of confusing to understand what is expected of the audience. And my personal feelings from it were, if you were to cut like all the interview shit out and like the whole we're making a film about these people who bought a haunted house out and just did the found footage of them buying the haunted house and explaining what they're doing, that would have been a perfect movie to me. I thought that the scenes where they were walking around the haunted house actually felt like we were going through a fucking haunted house. I was like in love with those scenes, especially the scenes where they're like getting the strobe light hallway set up.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. I loved that so much. But then it was sandwiched between a couple scenes of like the movie trying to explain that the house is haunted as if we need a reminder. I don't know.
I mean,
It
after
fell short for me.
after this movie was finished, I did kind of describe it, getting the effect of walking through a haunted house. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really scary. It's like someone jumping out at you and someone behind a cage. Like, ah!
Yeah.
But that's it. You know, there's not much more to it.
I think it was pretty middle road for me. Because there was a lot of stuff that I liked, and there was a lot of stuff that I just rolled my eyes at. And also, after we've watched this, we found that video of the girl who's like, I watched 1,000 horror movies, and these are the best ones.
Oh yeah, these are the ones that actually scared me, and this was one of them.
Yeah, this is one of them. And then I had to make my own little, like, satirical rip of that, which I might put in post-production here, too. I don't know. I don't care. And last is Spider-Man 3. I'm going to put it a C, though. I think it's a John Carpenter's Vampires for me.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not terrible. It's not great for me.
I can see it getting, like, 3 sequels and then progressively getting more and more outrageous and terrible.
I know there are sequels.
I saw one.
I haven't seen any of them.
I mean to say, like, I saw that there was one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we didn't watch Insidious. I've seen it before.
I've seen it, though. I don't...
It's not Paranormal Activity. And I remember when Insidious came out, people were saying it was better than Paranormal Activity and it was scarier than Paranormal Activity. I remember watching it like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I was like a teen. Right. I remember watching it and thinking like, this movie was fucking boring.
I can't remember much of this, except that one of the big plot points is that there's astral projection, and also the Tiny Tim song plays in here, which is really a shame because I like Tiny Tim, and I'm kind of sad that he got,
got cornholed into being a scary musician.
Right.
Because he made a really cheerful song.
Yeah, Tiptoe to the Tulips is, like, lovely.
It is. It's a really fun song. This is also James Wan, who worked on Saw, and this is, like, one of the first big Blumhouse productions that, like, started off the chain of, like, making a $10 million horror movie every year and then having it make, like, $200 million to fund the next 20 shitty horror movies through Blumhouse. So, if anything, Insidious is to fault for shitty movies like Happy Death Day and The Visit.
Yeah. And
so I think for that reason I'm giving it an E. But we should go through and watch all the Insidious movies and then reevaluate them.
This did awaken an interest in astral projection as like a 14-year-old. And I did try to astral project like shortly after watching it.
Did it work?
No. Unfortunately, I didn't try hard enough.
What a fucking scam! And then this next movie, it's kind of sad. We should have watched it. But it was one of the only movies that I don't think either of us have seen, and then we didn't end up watching it.
So I can't say much about it other than I do really want to watch this movie because it looks like it's great.
It's got Brad Pitt in it, and it's a horny vampire movie because it's based off of an Anne Rice book, which are just horny vampire books. So we're going to have to put it at didn't watch, but I'm going to have to watch it at some point because it's got Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt.
It's not because we didn't want to.
No, it just literally at the end of the month, I was like so burnt out. I just wanted to like be done with it. So, and it's not that I didn't like watching all these horror movies. It's just, it's the end of the month, bro.
There's some days you just don't want to sit down and watch a movie.
We also didn't watch this month, at least, didn't watch Let the Right One In, but I fucking love this movie.
Yeah, this is a great one. This is my go-to when someone asks for like a good vampire movie. It's about this young boy and this young girl who moves like next door to him in the apartment complex. And this is also Swedish.
Yeah, Swedish. Yeah, and he's like an outcast kid. Like, you can tell he gets bullied in school. And
he's very skinny and he gets bullied. And
his home life isn't great.
Yeah, his parents are divorced.
So he takes up a friendship with this little girl next door who he can tell is also kind of an outcast kid, and like they just befriend each other, and one thing leads to another. And
well, she's kind of an outcast because she's like sitting out in the cold at night with like out of jacket or shoes on.
Yeah.
And she only comes out at night, and she's a vampire.
Yeah.
She's a vampire, but she doesn't find that out. He doesn't find that out until later.
One thing leads to another, and this is a Sanguine Saturday movie.
It's good.
It is really good. I think it's like an A for me.
I would put this an S. This movie is beautiful. It's a great like coming of age movie.
Yeah.
It is spooky. Like there's some genuinely scary scenes in here that I want to get too much into.
Okay. Well, we'll put it an S for now, but I'm gonna argue that point like, maybe a little bit later.
My heart breaks for the little kid in this movie.
Dude, the ending scene is awesome. Again, I know you're not a fan of gore, but like, holy shit, that ending scene was so good.
Yeah. And the two kids just have really good chemistry with each other. You know, they really seem to have a connection with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I don't speak Swedish, so I don't understand like all the little idiomatic syntextual stuff that happens in conversations, but it seems like they're, actually friends, which seems to be a problem with a lot of movies nowadays where you cast people to be friends and they're not friends with each other. The next movie is a Monster Monday movie, and that's Mama.
Yes.
And one of the actors in this movie is in another movie that we're going to get to in a little bit.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, the guy that plays Mama is also in
Oh, yeah,
Wreck.
that's right.
But Mama is great. I mean, it's not like... I don't think it's S tier. I'm sorry to say that, but...
Mama is about two girls who were abandoned by their father.
After he killed their mother.
Yeah, he drove them into this wood to this cabin, and then...
I wouldn't say drove them. I mean, they were in a
Sorry.
car, but crashed them.
Yeah, they crashed. They ended up in this cabin in the middle of the woods. Their father dies. And so these little girls, aged, I think at the time, they were like...
Oh, it was 2 and...
Like 2 and 4 or something.
Yeah.
So they're very young, and they both get abandoned in this cabin. And so there's like a search going on for where they went. But since it's like in this random cabin, they haven't looked there yet. So they finally find where these kids are, but it's
7
been...
years later.
Was it 7?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah.
Well, they find them sometime later. And they've grown up, and they're like feral. You know, they're like crawling on all fours, and it's dark in there, and they've just been eating cherries. So the older one is able to like speak, and she kind of retained some vocabulary from before they were abandoned, but the young one is like
Completely feral.
she's done. You know, there's no saving her.
Mm-hmm. Which is sad. And they go through, after they're found by their uncle and his girlfriend, they go into like a foster care program where, pardon that, they go into a foster care program where their uncle and his girlfriend have to also exchange like the kids like on weekends with another woman. Is it
With their aunt?
Aunt? Yeah, okay. So
Yeah, and they're like too cool for kids.
yeah, he's a, was he like a writer or something? I can't remember what he does.
He's a writer and artist,
And
then
she's a
like in a
bass
rock
player
band.
in a punk band.
And so he's been looking for these kids because they're his nieces,
Yeah.
and she's just his girlfriend. And then they find the kids, and she's like, "Oh shit, I gotta take care of these fucking kids now."
Yeah.
Oh, what a fucking drag.
I mean, the movie's fine. It's a monster movie, so Mama is the monster, but
The figure that they may or may not have made up to be a parental figure while they've been in the woods. It's like this creepy.
oh, she's not made up.
Well,
Spoilers. This movie came out like 10 years ago.
It's a metaphor, right?
I guess. Yeah, you can call it metaphorical, but they do discuss it later in the movie. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I think it's like a B.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ending of this one is really sad. It made me very sad the first time I watched it.
The guy that played Mama is great, though.
Yeah. You might think that the creature, when he comes on, is like computer generated, but it's not. Javier Botet does a lot of like creature movies, and he has this Marfan syndrome, so he has like this connective tissue issue. It's really cool. He's great.
Him and who's the guy?
He's a great
that's
performer.
we just saw him in Hocus Pocus.
That was the other guy.
He's
Oh
in
my
like
God.
a lot of movies. He
What
plays
is
the
his
monster.
name?
I feel like he has like 2 first names.
I forgot.
This is the beauty of having post production is that we can just like edit all this out.
I know. Oh my god, the other guy that does the monster movies is Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
And Doug Jones and Javier Botet are often cast as like the monsters.
Yeah, and they do a great job at it. Doug Jones is also in the Bye Bye Man, i.e. the Pee Pee Poo Poo Man, which is a really shitty movie. Sorry to break it to you. I have the ultimate authority when it comes to... I've seen 1,000 horror movies, and I'm going to tell you which ones are good. Anyways, the next movie is May. This is actually recommended to us by a friend of ours, and I honestly... This movie is really good, but it's like extremely uncomfortable. May is this girl who has like this eye disorder.
She had a lazy eye.
Yeah, she has a lazy eye, and so she like gets her eye corrected as a kid, but she kind of grows up like as a loner because of the fact that she had to get like corrective glasses or something.
Yeah, I think she had these glasses on, but in the beginning of the movie she went to the optometrist and she gets her eye fixed.
Yeah.
And so now she's finding this she's found this like newfound confidence, because her insecurity is gone, but she still has all of like this deep-seated awkwardness. She doesn't know how to talk to people or the appropriate things to do.
Her only friend until she's an adult is her doll.
That was made by her mother.
Yeah, and she has to keep it in this box because it would lose its condition if it came out. So she keeps this doll in her box, and she's her best friend, and then she, like, as an adult, finally starts, like, learning how to socialize with people, and it leads to some really awkward scenes. I love the scene where she's like, it's not Adam Driver, but he might as well be the boyfriend, or not even boyfriend.
I forget his name.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But there's like a scene where she's like, the guy that she's crushing on, she's like stalking him kinda to see like what his daily routines is, and she finds out that he like crosses this one part of the road at this specific time every day, and so she sets herself up to cross the road at the same time going the opposite way so she can bump into him, and it's just the most awkward shit ever.
Because he like says something to her and then she just like doesn't say anything. She's kind of standing there.
Yeah, she's just standing there. There's several scenes where she doesn't say anything, and I loved it. It was like so uncomfortable. The gore is great. It was just a really good movie. I found myself laughing out of like
just like cringing.
Nervousness. Yeah, cringing.
The soundtrack was really good as well.
It was like super 2000s.
I just felt so, I don't know. There's times I felt bad for her, but she did some really crazy shit in this movie.
Yeah, she's off the wall.
That like it wouldn't even do justice for me to like describe it. And then there's also her other female coworker, played by Anna Faris, who's like obviously crushing on her and like giving her a million opportunities to like hang out with her or even like sleep with her, and she's just like, no.
She doesn't get it.
She doesn't. I don't know if she just doesn't get it. Doesn't get the hint. Maybe.
She's awkward. Who knows? But I think.
And then it spirals.
It gets out of control real fast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a B. I'm also gonna recommend people go watch it. I don't remember. I think we had to rent it.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. Definitely go watch it. Speaking of good movies that everyone's probably watched at least a dozen times, Midsummer, or Midsummer, or however you want to tell me I'm saying it wrong. Yeah, Florence Pugh is an amazing actress, and her ability to like control her facial expressions on a minute's notice and actually deliver some very empathy heavy scenes. Just an amazing movie. Extremely beautiful movie.
Yeah, she like cries in the beginning of this movie, and it's like
genuine.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and the scares in this movie are, I would say, subtle, and I feel like I'm gonna get laughed out for saying that if anyone ever sees this, but they are. Some of the scares are real subtle in this movie. I also really
I missed a couple of them the first time.
Yeah, dude, I mean, you're gonna have to watch it a couple times, I feel like, just to get the full experience. But I really enjoy the art pieces that are littered about the movie.
It's gorgeous. This is, if anything, just watch this for the mise en scène, the art, the costumes. It's all gorgeous.
And if you're looking for like a super scary run-of-the-mill horror movie, this isn't for you. I'm really sorry to say, I think the majority of criticisms for this movie just comes from the fact that it's a scary movie and people have weird expectations for scary movies. Right. But it delivers. I mean, it's funny.
Like, most of this takes place in the daytime, which is, not typical.
Yeah, well, it's the brightest horror movie of all time, next to Wicker Man. The original Wicker Man, which is also on this.
This is very much like Wicker Man.
Yeah.
The original one. The good one.
The good one. But I think it's already a cult classic, and it's only been 2 years.
Yeah. This one is also kind of sad.
Shitty ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, I hate the boyfriend in this movie every time I watch this. A little bit more.
Yeah. I hate a lot of the characters. I mean, there's like likable traits about most characters, but then, god damn, what's his name? Jake? The boyfriend? Christian, yeah.
Christian.
There's nothing to like about the guy. At
No.
first you feel bad for him because you see that he's like trying to get out of this relationship.
And then he like can't because a tragic event has happened in her life, and he kind of feels like, oh well, he can't break up her now. She's traumatized.
He has to stay. But goddamn, like
There's nothing
good about him.
He's a coward. He's a mooch and a flake and an asshole.
A leech.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, he's a bear. But I love this movie. I think it's either S or A for me.
Yeah. There's some really funny parts in this movie, too.
Now, I want to say this, though.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't my favorite Ari Aster movie. I still think Hereditary is better.
I would agree.
But it's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because they're the same director.
Yep.
I cannot wait for everything that Ari Aster does.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does next.
Him and Roger Eggers.
Robert
Eggers, pardon me. Those two A24 movies are like, they're memed out now because they're like art house horror movies. But holy shit, some of them can hold their ground, and like
They're producing good
Robert
stuff.
Eggers and Ari Aster are manja. I'm gonna put it in S. Wreck.
It's going in S.
Yeah, Wreck is an S tier. Don't watch Quarantine. I
haven't seen Quarantine, so I can't like speak to it. But before we go further, this movie is about
journalist, news.
Yep,
team.
Spanish language movie. This news team is like having a slow news day, and they're like
they do late night stuff. Their whole show is like while you're sleeping.
Yeah, the show is called While You're Sleeping, so they go do things like at night. And so tonight they're at a fire station, just like, you know, showing what the firefighters do and what their night is like, showing around the station. And then they get called out to this apartment building to respond to a call, and then they all get shut in because they've been quarantined for something. No one's really saying what's happening.
It's a found footage movie, and it is phenomenal as a found footage movie.
Yes.
And I can believe that they were shooting this on like a news camera, unlike other found footage movies where it's supposed to be like a Steadicam and it's in like 4K.
Right.
So,
Like The Visit.
So this movie is great. I loved it. I love the pace of it. I love the characters. Like,
it's scary as hell.
We're in this apartment complex for all of 90 minutes, and I can tell you, like, honestly, every single character is different.
Mm-hmm.
And they all get enough time to like flush out their story, because they're given like personal interviews, and you can, even in like that 60-second personal interview, they all have like this unique character to them. No two people are the same in this movie, and it's just like phenomenal. It's all well paced. Again, I love gore in horror movies, and the gore in this movie is great. The only complaint I have with this movie is that they made a sequel.
Yeah.
And that Quarantine exists with like 4 sequels.
I mean, at the heart of it, this is like a zombie movie.
Yeah.
But don't let other zombie movies influence what you think this might be, because it's really good, and it's really like claustrophobic, because they're all in this like confined space, and there's like nowhere for them to go, and they don't know what's going on. And my only complaint with this movie mostly is the ending. I didn't really care for. Don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, but
to the story.
Is it Javier Botet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got him.
Yeah. So there's like, I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
But would you say you like zombies?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to zombies, is there like a certain kind of zombie that you're a fan of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I personally love redneck zombies.
Yeah.
This movie was one that we got for a friend, and it was one of the first movies shot on tape.
Yep. That had a wide release, so this what came out in 1988.
Yeah, and it was released through a independent movie collection called Trauma Vision, which I'm going to have to end up binging like as many trauma movies as I can in my lifetime. But it was originally one of the first widely released movies on tape, and then 20 years later, it got its release on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this movie at a local retail store for like $2. And I saw the cover, had no idea what it was, thought it looked hilarious, and I got it from my best friend. and we watched it in place of watching Wicker Man, and I don't regret that decision at all because it was one of the fucking funniest B-rate movies I've ever seen.
It was so good.
Period. Full stop. It was so good. The beginning of the movie is like, because it's a 20-year anniversary and it's being put on DVD, they're doing like this little shout out by this guy named Kaufman who has Kaufman's Culture Corner.
Is it actually Andy Kaufman?
Is it?
No.
No, it's a guy playing Andy Kaufman, but he's doing Kaufman's Culture Corner and he's interviewing the director of Redneck Zombies, and it's just so offensive. And then you just get right into the movie after that. It's like a Tim and Eric skit. And then it gets right into the movie and it's just like straight offensive shit right after another, but I think it's tastefully offensive, especially for the 80s.
Yeah, they definitely made like edgy humor, but it didn't feel like they were being mean-spirited about it at any time, or for the most part. I mean, there are like a couple weird things, but
yeah. But by far the best part of this movie is in the middle of, not even the middle, like the 2/5 mark.
This movie's about this guy who spills a bucket of radioactive waste, and then these bunch of rednecks find it
and make moonshine out of it because they think it's a still.
Yeah. And
that's it.
Zombies happen.
Yeah, and zombies. And they're all redneck.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go into too much of it because I had no expectations going into it. But I do want to point out that at like the 2/5, like 40% of the way through the movie, we get an amazing character who I would love to see like more of, and that's the Tobacco Man.
Yeah.
And he's fucking awesome.
He's driving this like old car, and he has like this bag over his head.
Truck.
This old ice cream truck. And so he rings the bell, and they all come run into the Tobacco Man. He has this like cloth bag over his face, and one of his eyes is exposed. He's wearing his like old dirty clothes, and his voice is like vocoded, and he gives this like weirdly like
it's just
dark,
depressing,
like touching speech about like
the death
tobacco
of the world and how it's addicted to nicotine.
It's like about the effects that tobacco is gonna have on you, like physically and mentally. And then he's just gone. I think he comes back for like one scene.
I loved that speech because I had just finished.
It's like so spooky.
It is. I had just finished the Pharmacopoeia like a week earlier, and his speech about tobacco and how it's like everlasting and how it's with every single culture as they progress on and as they die off, tobacco stays alive.
I like wrote it out in my.
In the Pharmacopoeia, they discuss the Thanatos, and one of the Thanatos is tobacco, and it's like his speech is such a parallel to how it's discussed in Pharmacopoeia. I don't know how much more to talk about it really, because it was just fucking phenomenal, and the rest of the movie was great. There's a scene where this guy is like drugged out of his mind, and he's doing an autopsy, and it's just so goofy. Did you find it?
No, I don't think I actually saw it.
It's
I was like
A or S for me.
Yeah, I was a little worried because with these kind of movies that are like so bad it's good, sometimes they're good, like The Room or something, you know, and sometimes they're just honestly kind of boring, you know, because they're not good for a reason. Yeah. They're not paceful, but this one was just actually good. Like, it made me laugh. Like, there was not ever a dull point. There's so many good scenes in here to talk about, but we'd be talking about this all day.
Yeah, we could do a whole video on redneck zombies and trauma at some point. I'm going to give it an S for right now. Or an A, pardon me.
It would be an S if they cut off the last, like, 5 minutes of the movie. I don't want to talk about it.
Next movie is George Romero's Season of the Witch, also known as Hungry Wives. Do you want to go into detail about this?
I found out that I wanted to watch this movie because one of my favorite Boards of Canada songs samples it, but it's about, what is this even about?
It's about a bored housewife who starts looking into the occult because she wants more excitement in her life, and her one friend's friend is into the occult and seems to be very happy, so she picks it up herself, and she finds herself fully invested in the occult and being witchy, and she, like, her daughter runs away at one point, and she blames her daughter's runaway on her daughter's boyfriend. Now I want to mention that like her daughter is probably like supposed to be 18 or 19, but she looks like she's 30. And so
I
is
don't
the
think she looks that
boyfriend.
old.
She looks
The
old.
boyfriend is definitely like 40.
Yeah, the boyfriend's. He keeps calling the main character. I can't remember what her name is, but he keeps calling her an old lady, and he himself is probably like 2 years younger than him.
Maybe, if
Yeah.
not the same age.
So, it's
Like he's a professor at a university and he has wrinkles. Like he's old.
Yeah, he's old, but he smokes pot and he's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know. I liked it more the second time watching it than I did the first. I don't think it's one of my favorite Romero films at all, but it's good. It's just a slow burner. And it's also worth mentioning that originally the
first title was Hungry Wives.
and it was supposed to be a porno.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like softcore porn.
Which
And like the
Some of
porn
it's
stuff
there.
in here is weird as fuck.
yeah, you
if
might
I
as well
can
just
just
lay
spoil
down
it.
on top of each other naked. Like that's the level of softcore.
Well, the daughter runs away because the mom comes home from like doing some witch bullshit, and she comes home and she hears her daughter having sex with her boyfriend, and she starts touching herself.
The daughter doesn't know that right away, but
No, but the daughter does come in, sees her mom, and she's like, "Oh, great, mom, good
yeah,
going."
when did you get home? Why didn't you say anything?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like you're both in the wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why are you having that loud of sex in this house? It's your parents' house. Like, you're an idiot for thinking this wouldn't happen. But I don't know. It's like a C or a B for me. I think I'd probably put it at C.
Yeah, it's a fun watch.
Yeah, I recommend it if anyone's looking for just like a fun little witch movie.
Or listen to Julian Candy. by
Yeah,
Boards
just
of
listen
Canada.
to Julian Candy by Boards in Canada. You can get the full experience. And then also watch that guy's video talking about how Boards of Canada
Yeah,
is satanic.
there's a fan made video on YouTube someone made using clips of this movie, so that might give you a preview. But the song is great. It's like one of my favorite songs. So I wanted to watch the movie because I was kind of curious why they chose this movie.
Yeah. The next movie is Southbound, which is an anthology.
Yes.
And it's about these people who are on Route 66. Is that what it is? Probably.
I don't know.
But
I don't remember.
these people who all suffer an unfortunate fate off Route 66. And it's cyclical. Like the first story fits in with the last story, but each story
like,
plays into the next.
Yeah, they don't. It's not just like a hard cut into the next story. There's like a transition
Which is well done.
between like a character or an event, which I like. That's a really cool idea for an anthology.
Yeah, but some of the stories do feel like they're rushed towards the end of them. Like they're just trying to be done with this. Like maybe they had an idea for it, but they didn't fully flesh it out, and so they're like, "Well, how do we end this?" Some of those do end like that, but I mean, it's extremely gory, and I loved the hospital scene. It's
Yeah.
extremely nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I was gonna say my favorite one of these vignettes is one where a man hits a. I'm gonna give it away.
Hits a woman with his car.
He hits a woman with his car, and he's like, oh my god, what do I do? So he like calls 911, and he's like trying to find a hospital to take her to, and he gets to a hospital, and there's no one in there. It's abandoned, but the lights are on,
And he has to save this woman's life.
and so they're like trying to talk him through the surgery, and he's like struggling to find like literally any supplies, let alone how to use them.
It's really nerve-wracking.
It's so stressful and just scary.
Yeah, but I personally like. There are some parts in this movie where I'm just like snoring.
Yeah.
There's some of the like you call them vignettes. I like that because it's like, yeah. Some of the vignettes are great. I like the hospital vignette. I like the ending one because it's kind of like The Strangers but good. So I liked that. But other than that, not too much that I really want to say about this movie. I recommend it if you're into like anthology style movies like VHS.
Yep.
It's better than ABCs of Death, which isn't saying much, but I'll give it like a C. What about you?
I'd say B. I like this one a lot. I would definitely recommend this.
I'll put it at a B. Now, we didn't finish The Crazies. Now, I'm going to tell you right now why, alright? It's real simple. If you're going to make a horror movie where it's supposed to be opening up with this fast-paced scene of a bunch of shit going on, you can't immediately derail that with like 35 minutes of scientific fucking jargon about how this is affecting more than just the US and talking about the political like side of the political repercussions of doing certain things a certain way, like how enforcing martial law on a small rural community is going to affect the political standing. No, you can't do that. If you're going to start off a movie batshit, you have to follow that same pace.
This movie was like if you wanted to ask your friend like how's your day and then you immediately like start running away from them.
Yeah.
It like there was no time for them to build up any tension. Like even in the beginning, there was like the scene where these two kids are like playing in the house, and then oh no, they're like not actually playing. Like something is actually going on, but they couldn't even like let any time for that to happen. Like you see the kids, and immediately you see the person behind them. You don't have any time to guess. Oh, is that a shadow? Is that a person? Is that the kid? It just like gives away like right away, and then just like Jared said, there's all this like science-y bullshit, which I don't care about. I want more of the crazies.
Yeah, I wanted more crazy shit to go on because at this point it's just kind of like.
I mean, yeah. They whatever. They got to get the military in there.
That's fine. Several movies have done this better, where it's like, okay, they're enforcing martial law, and if you want to keep this idea of like what the fuck is going on, then just be like, hey, we're taking over this hospital, and like show the scene where they're getting everything set up, and then cut to something else. Mm-hmm. But like, they spent so much time just discussing. Or just
do a better job of making that more exciting.
Yeah. I'm sure the movie gets better.
Also, this movie had a different title. In the beginning, it was like the Trixie something.
Project Trixie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was another one of the, I think this is also a Romero movie. So Romero just has a tendency of buying other movies and then remaking them.
Whatever, the rest of it might be good. I don't know.
We didn't finish it, but I'm going to put it at an E. The E also stands for The Exorcist. The Exorcist was great. This is my first time watching it. This is like your second time?
Sorry, second or third. I don't know.
But it was great. I loved it. I thought that it was phenomenally well done. Yeah, it's classic. It's evil. It's just like some of the practical effects they got in this movie were like, I don't think any other movie at the same time done anything like it. Mm-mm. It was kind of like one of a kind. And I enjoyed a lot of the discuss about the occult. The opening 10 minutes might leave you a bit confused, but I think that it
kind of ties back in later, but I was very, like, confused about that the first time. I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing, like, archaeologists dig for?
Yeah, well, he's uncovering the story of this ancient evil.
Yeah.
But it's great.
I mean, I get it now, but
I don't really have much to say about this movie, even though it's, like, 40 years old. I don't really want to spoil too much about it. But I would recommend it. I'm also going to put it at B.
Really?
Yeah. I'm only putting it at a B because I can.
Okay. If you haven't seen The Exorcist, go watch it.
Definitely go watch it. It's phenomenal.
It's gross. It's nasty.
No, don't touch her. The sow is mine. The Ritual. This is like, if there was a tier above S, that's where The Ritual would go.
Really?
No. What's happening to the bees? That's the question of The Ritual. All right. This isn't The Ritual. I'm sorry. This is The Happening.
Oh.
The Happening. Sorry.
I was gonna say, did you like The Ritual that much?
If there's a tier above S, that's where The Happening would go. And what's happening to the bees is the question of The Happening. The Happening stars Marky Mark Wahlberg. It's a Shyamalan movie, and it's about something making people kill themselves. Ooh. And it's pretty typical for Shyamalan. I think it's probably better viewed as a comedy, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not typical comedy. Don't tell your friend who loves comedy movies to watch The Ritual. I don't think they're going to get it. The Happening. Fuck. Don't tell them to watch The Happening. I don't think they're going to get it. But if you like horror movies and you want to watch something that's going to make you laugh and you haven't somehow seen The Happening, there you go. Watch The Happening. It was a great way to start the calendar off, I thought.
I don't know what else to say about this, really. This is the first movie you watched.
It's an eye roller.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty funny scenes. don't know, man.
My theory is that this is a big metaphor for like the colony collapse disorder phenomenon that was happening to honeybees in like the mid 2000s.
I think you're giving too much credit to Shyamalan.
It just seems like a weird thing to make a movie about that like this.
I think it's a D.
Yeah.
You didn't see The Hills Have Eyes.
I did not.
Now, this is the original Hills Have Eyes, I think from 77 or something. The original Clive Barker, or Wes Craven. I'm going to say Clive Barker and Wes Craven.
I don't think Clive Barker had anything to do with this.
And then I'm going to edit out the wrong answer. So it's the original Clive Barker, Wes Craven, Hills Have Eyes. And it's great. I mean, I liked it. I'd seen the remake in like the 2000s where it starts off with like this really cheesy like news broadcast about nuclear testing out in the like Mojave. But
can you tell me a little bit about what this is about?
So The Hills Have Eyes is about these people who live out in the Great Mojave Desert, right? Mm-hmm. Out in like New Mexico. And they live close to like Area 51. So they're completely out in the middle of nowhere. They don't have like modern social skills. And when a family comes through on vacation on their way passing through to California, they decide they want to stop in this area because there's a renowned silver mine that they really want to go check out. And the first place they stop off at has this old like prospector guy who runs like a gift store and who we know is in relationship with the people who live in the hills, but the family passing through don't know that. And the prospector is just telling the family like, it'd be best just to pass through here. There's nothing here. And when the dad is like, we really want to see the silver mine, he's like, are you crazy? That silver mine's been cleared out for 100 years. Just keep going. And the dad being, you know, the dad, and he doesn't read maps, he doesn't take directions, he's like, oh, well, fuck your advice, I'm going to keep going through to the silver mine anyways. And shortly after that, they crash. So now they're stranded in this desert. And they, the dad and a couple of the guys go out looking for help. They basically just like go in opposite directions. The dad goes back to the prospector, and the other guy walks off like 15 miles in one direction to see if there's anything and then come back. And while they're doing that, the women are basically stranded in this little camper RV with their 2 dogs and this one brother, while the people from the hills are taunting them, and they slowly get picked off. And it's great. It's really good. I mean, there's a scene in the 2000s movie that, content warning, the youngest daughter is taken advantage of by one of the people from the hills. Mm-hmm. And the 2000s movie, it's there for the shock value. Like, it's there because in the original movie it's there, but the 2000s movie is just like, we're going to make this as gross as possible.
Oh, man.
This one didn't do that. This one was like, we got the idea of what was happening to her, but they didn't show us anything, which is, I'm 100% okay with that. I understand that it needs to be there for the story, and that it needs to be there because it's a horror movie, but I also appreciate that we don't need to see it.
Right.
So I thought it was really well done. I was actually going into it expecting to dislike it because I kind of just thought the 2000 movie was pretty shit anyways. But just turns out that once again, remaking classic horror movies is just a fucking waste of money, and I wish we would stop doing it.
Yep.
So
What's the next one?
I'm gonna put this one at a C.
Nope, that's whatever you do.
And I'm gonna let you talk about The Lodge.
The Lodge. Okay, I gotta get this person's name.
The same director that did Goodnight Mommy?
Yep. Okay, the director of The Lodge was Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala. This one came out in 2019, starring Riley Keough. It is about this man, his wife has recently committed suicide, and his 2 children are really struggling to come to terms with that. There's this terrible scene in the beginning where this girl is like crying because she thinks that her mom is going to hell, and it's just like, oh, my heart breaks for this little girl. Like, I feel so bad. But anyway, This man has this new girlfriend, and the kids are not happy about it, obviously, because it's like 6 months later, and they decide to go on a trip to this lodge for Christmas. And they get there, the girlfriend is trying to like connect with these kids, and they're just like rejecting her. And then suddenly, for some reason, the dad has to leave, and leaves the girlfriend and the two kids, son and the daughter, alone in the cabin until he can come back. I think it was like a work thing. And then some weird stuff starts happening, which seems like paranormal stuff. And this one is very scary. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like it as much the first time watching it, but I enjoyed it the second time.
There are some twists and turns that I didn't see coming at all. I can usually like kind of suss the stuff out. But this one caught me by surprise. It took me a while to figure out what was actually happening, what was actually going on. It's like so fucked up.
Yeah.
This one has this type of horror that I don't really see used often at all in movies. I don't really want to say too much about it.
I did like
There's so much conflicting emotions that this movie made me feel for the characters, because they have such a range of characteristics that's really hard. There's really no bad or good person here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
To
To some extent.
leave it up for interpretation.
Yeah. Anyway, this one's really great. It's really tense. I definitely recommend this one. But
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is I do like the documentary, or not documentary, but like the found information they have on like this Jonestown, like Heaven's Gate kind of thing that's going on in the movie.
oh yeah, that was another thing, was that the girlfriend was previously like, she escaped a cult.
Yeah.
When she was
Jonestown,
younger.
Heaven's Gate kind of thing.
Yeah, I think she was like the only survivor, or close to it.
And so the kids, they don't like this girlfriend because they're still not over their mom's death, and they think that the dad's moving on
Understandably.
too soon. Yeah. And so being little shitty kids, they decide they're going to play a prank on her. Or not even play a prank. I'm not going to say that much, but they decide to like take advantage of
This information
about this cult and
Which is
try
just,
to
like,
play
so
at her
messed
guilt. It is really messed up, but it's shitty kids being shitty.
Yeah. I mean, this hardest movie's just grappling with trauma and the effect it can really have on you.
Yeah. What would you rate it?
I would put this an S. I was really surprised by this one.
Alrighty. Lost Boys
Goes an S.
An S. Lost Boys is a vampire movie from like the 80s. And it stars Corey Feldman and Kiefer Sutherland.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so 80s, and it's such a fun movie. I love watching it. A friend of ours showed this to us. I don't know if you'd seen it before. Emily showed you.
I'd seen it before.
I hadn't. So a friend of ours showed it to me, and I love it. It's such a great movie. We showed it to our buddy who we watched Redneck Zombies with, and I still to this day don't approve of his reasoning for disliking the end of the movie, which it's not spoiling anything. You'll quickly find out about it, but the end line in the movie, I'm not going to say who says
Okay,
it.
well, first, this movie is about this family who moves to
Santa Monica.
Santa Carla, which is Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz? I thought it was
Yeah.
Santa Monica.
Santa Carla.
Anyways.
It's set in Santa Cruz, or they filmed in Santa Cruz. But anyway, the oldest son, who's like 19,
Sure.
I think he's 19 because he's like college age.
Yeah.
Discovers,
It's a Goonie situation.
Yeah, he discovers that there's vampires in this town, and they kind of seduce him into doing all these crazy things and becoming one of them, and craziness, vampire stuff ensues.
Yeah. And they've
moved in with their grandfather, their grandfather in his old house because they're very poor.
And the last line in the movie, again, I'm not going to say who says it, but the last line in the movie is, there's one thing that I can't stand about Santa Carla, it's all these fucking vampires. And I think that is just a great way to end off that movie. And I don't approve of our friend not liking it.
I think the vampires in this movie might be a metaphor for the gays.
Oh, and how they're like sharing blood to spread.
I mean, yeah.
Wow. That's not kosher.
Why? The director of this movie was gay. He was an out gay director.
Oh, it's kosher then. I thought it was just like someone...
I don't think that this is... I don't know. I think there's definitely some gay themes in this movie.
It's not a homophobic message. Okay.
I think the grandpa saying, one thing I can't stand about Santa Carla is all these vampires, is maybe him being homophobic. But
if
maybe
it's
not in a
written
good way.
by a gay director, maybe it's his way of acknowledging that, like, the old people are set in their ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good movie. It's a great movie. It's an awesome movie. And now I feel like a dummy for not knowing enough about it.
That's what kind of what I took away from it. Like, there's all these male vampires that hang around together and they're sexy and kind of seduce this other man into joining them.
And how a woman...
They're sharing bodily fluids.
How a woman is trying to keep this one man from becoming a vampire.
Mm.
But she's also a vampire.
I don't know. Some of it doesn't work.
Well, they're putting
But the
vampire blood in the water to turn the frogs gay, so...
The younger boy is, like, wearing these bright shirts and taking bubble baths, and he has a picture of Rob Lowe in his room. Like,
he's a fan of monster trucks. Leave him alone. Moving on.
Lost Boys is for the gays.
They made a Death Grips song off of that. Moving on is The Ritual. And I mean to say that happening on accident like 1,000 times while I'm talking about this movie.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention shirtless saxophone man in the beginning.
That's just like you're in the 80s. Shirtless saxophone men and like racing your cars through
sweat.
The beach is just 80s. The Ritual is a Netflix original horror movie about four or five friends, I think it's four friends, that a year after their friend's death go on a hiking trip in Sweden and start encountering very unusual phenomena as they make their way through this set of woods when they have to cut their hike short after one of their friends is a oaf and like sprains his leg or something. It discusses the like mythos of I'm not going to talk about that. It discusses things from ancient like Nordic mythos. I think it was really well done how they like kind of layered in information about this creature without directly showing it. It's something that I personally love in horror movies where they don't show the creature. They like hint at it. I love the foreplay of like getting the idea of what the creature is but not getting the full reveal until the end. Mm-hmm. I think that The Ritual does that really well. I think this is one of those movies that suffers from a group of friends who don't seem like friends, but maybe they're not supposed to be. I think they don't like each other towards the beginning of the movie anyways. I think that's kind of implied.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I loved the creature design towards the end of the movie.
It was spooky.
There's a lot of scenes that are really high tense scenes where the friends are kind of like split up from each other for a minute and their experiences are all radically different and it kind of plays into like who they might be as a person. It was really good. I liked it. It's really pretty at times though. I like movies that are shot in the woods that aren't Blair Witch Project.
This is another movie that takes place in Sweden.
Yeah. What can I say, man? The Swedes are crazy.
How many are there?
Right now?
There's The Ritual.
There's The Ritual. Haxen is not shot in Sweden, but it's Swedish.
Midsummer.
Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In and Goodnight Mommy. No, that's German.
Okay. We got a couple of them. But I like The Ritual. I don't think it's phenomenal, but I think it's pretty good, so I'd give it like a B.
Yeah.
And then we didn't see Wicker Man. As we previously discussed, we ended up watching Redneck Zombies and Monster Trucks instead, but we have seen Wicker Man before.
Yes.
The original Wicker Man is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really beautiful movie.
This police officer that's been
Sent out
Oh my
looking
God,
for a
is this one
missing
Swedish
girl.
too?
No, this is in Ireland.
right. This is Ireland.
Or is it Scottish? Oh, that could get me damned.
Hmm.
It's in the Isles. He
Yep.
gets sent off. I think it's Scottish. He gets sent off looking for a little girl who's gone missing, and he comes across this seaport village
Mm-hmm.
that she was last seen in.
So he's just trying to do this investigation. He's very straightforward. I think he is also revealed to like be a virgin, but he's, you know, in his 40s, I think. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And he's a man of God.
Yep.
But it's really well done.
The townspeople are kind of acting suspicious, and he's just already very confused trying to get information on this case, and he doesn't seem to be getting any leads or any help. He just seems to be getting more questions. And the ending really scared me the first time I watched this. I was scared pretty easily by most things, though.
It's a really good payoff.
Yeah. The costumes and the props are amazing, and then
that beautiful singing scene, like the middle.
yeah, this
of
is
the
also
movie.
like a musical, which would seem like it'd be bad for a horror movie, but this works so well. And yeah, the songs are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Definitely give this one a watch. I love it.
Would you put it at an A or an S?
I would put this in S.
Okay.
Definitely give this one a watch.
No, I'm going to give this one an S as well because it's one of the funniest horror movies that I think most people already know about, but it's Troll 2. Troll 2 is about goblins, and it was originally written in Italian. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So the people who made this were Italian. And a lot of the little idiomatic things that you would do to anglicize it just didn't come through because the writers in the cast were very stubborn and didn't listen to the English cast when they tried to say, like, hey, you should say things like this. It's like that scene in Lost in Translation when Bill Murray's, like, doing the Suntory whiskey commercial, and he's, like, trying to help them make it sound less bad, and they're just like, no, just do it like this. We got it.
Yeah. And I think it really paid off, though.
So there's some weird lines in here. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but
There's the line where the dad is about to punish the son, and he's like seen like taking his belt.
I'm like, oh no, what is he gonna do?
Yeah, he's like unhooking his belt, and his son's like, "What are you gonna do to me, Daddy?" And his dad's like, "I'm gonna tighten my belt one loop so I don't get hunger pains." Like shit like that is phenomenal. There's
This one's hilarious.
there's so many great things about this movie that
They
like,
go to
if you haven't already
Upland
seen
backwards.
it. Oh yeah, they go to Nilbog.
They go to Neilbog.
I was too far into the movie before I realized that Nilbog was goblin backwards.
He found out about it at the same time the kid did when he looked at it in a mirror.
I,
He was
I-
like, oh shit.
That's not fair. I beat that little fucker to it by like 2
Oh,
minutes.
This movie's hilarious.
Just do yourself a favor and watch it.
This is also, I mean, it's about trolls who they try to get you to eat this green goo.
So you become
So
a troll.
you turn into green goo and they can eat you. And
And
it was
it's-
made because the director was like angry because her friends were vegetarians and she didn't like that. So she made this movie.
As a shout out to vegetarians.
She didn't like vegetarians so much she made this movie. Yeah, the whole thing is hilarious. Like I don't know.
I love it.
It's a great.
If you haven't already seen it, just do yourself a favor and watch it because you're missing out.
Like everyone knows the scene where he's like, they're eating her and then they're gonna eat me.
Oh my god.
But nobody talks about the scene where like the witch seduces the boy in the camper with some corn.
Yeah, and popcorn keeps popping everywhere.
Like no one talks about that.
No one talks about the scene where the kid destroys his family's dinner either. Or
By
all the
pissing
little
on it.
scenes where he's talking to his grandpa.
Yeah.
It's just great. Just
Oh my god, he goes back to hell. He goes to hell.
Troll 2 is an S.
It's so good.
Now,
So funny.
the last movie on here you didn't watch, but I'm going to save
Yeah.
you the time that I lost watching it. It's not good. The original Truth or Dare. The original Truth or Dare is a man who comes home and discovers his wife is cheating on him, and so he has a manic breakdown and goes into the woods and starts playing Truth or Dare with himself and his imaginary hitchhiker that he picked up on the road, who's like this beautiful woman, and she's asking him to just do terrible stuff to himself, like cut his eye with a razor blade and like put his hand in the fire and stuff like that. And he eventually gets put into an insane asylum, and within the insane asylum he is supposed to go through like rehabilitation, thank you. He's supposed to go through rehabilitation, and he's released back out into the public. And once he's released, like 10 or 15 years later, he immediately goes back to his ex-wife's house and murders her boyfriend, and is about to murder her when like the phone rings or something, and he like runs away, and eventually he gets caught by the police, and he goes back into the insane asylum, and he's put in this like maximum security room, which is just like a regular room with padded walls, but there's still like a chair in there and like stuff that he can like use to harm himself or others. But it doesn't matter, because he's brought with himself like an X-Acto knife that he's like snuck in somehow, because this insane asylum has like no security. So the whole movie is just switching between whether or not he's in or out of the insane asylum. And if he's out of it, he's probably better off back in it. But then again, when he's in it, they don't fucking treat him anyways. So maybe this whole thing is discussing like how like a lot of insane asylums in the US aren't actually rehabilitating people, and they're just like letting them there to die and to get worse. But it was so poorly done. There is this one theme song they use whenever he was driving, and it's just a synth arpeggio with like a buzzer on it, and it's the most droning shit ever. And every time it played for too long, except for one time where it played for like 4 times too long. Mm-hmm. It was shit. The only thing I liked about this movie was there was one character who was like a really shitty cop, and at one point his like sergeant just lays into him and tells him how shitty he is, and you can see that the guy like is visibly upset, like he's gonna cry about how shitty of an officer he is. But it was like so subtly in there, like his facial expression was so subtle that it's just like a half a second of like, oh, maybe I am a piece of shit, and then that was it. So I'm gonna give it an E. It wasn't good. The gore was pretty like mediocre. There was one scene where a guy puts a grenade in his mouth and his head explodes.
Ew.
And like that was cool, I guess. But other than that, like it was all really stupid. And it's an E, and that's the end of the movie calendar.
Yes.
Do you have any like afterthoughts or movies you would have liked to put on here next year or something?
I mean, sure there are, but
well, we should watch Interview with a Vampire sometime. We should rewatch Freaks so you can see it.
But at the top of the list we have
Beetlejuice,
Donnie Darko, Funny Games, Good Night Mommy, Let the Right One In, Midsummer, Wreck, The Lodge, Lost Boys, Wicker Man, and Troll 2. So definitely check those out. Yep.
Also check out Bram Stoker's Dracula, First Reformed, Freaks from 1932. Check out the 1922 documentary for The Witch.
Haxon,
yeah, and check out Tromavision. You'll probably find something on there that's really funny. They're probably going to be like $1 a movie if you can find them at like a retail store near you.
Yep, and then don't watch Insidious, The Crazies, or Truth or Dare.
Yeah, and if you do happen to watch those movies, tell us how wrong we are about our feelings on them, because that'd be really fun to read.
I feel kind of bad about Crazies just because we didn't finish it, but whatever.
Well, maybe next time they should make it more engaging, because I like big explosions and
I like the costumes. There's some cute outfits in there. I was like I wanted that girl's outfit. It's cute.
Well, that's gonna do it for this episode. I'm gonna end up editing this down because it's a little bit long, but
it is kind of long.
Thank you all for listening. See ya.